This is Counterpoint, and I'm your host, Tanya Allen. Tonight, we need to talk about something that's going to hit every Canadian right in the wallet. The latest federal government's new draft regulations would force oil and gas producers to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by about a third over the next 8 years. And that would impact you and your family financially. The recently unveiled draft regulations from the federal Environment and Climate Change Minister, Steven Guilbeault, imposes a cap on emissions from the oil and gas sector, with the goal of slashing those emissions by 2030. But is this a good thing? Will this save our planet? Or is this another policy that has nothing to do with protecting the environment and everything to do with punishing working Canadians and crippling our energy sector? Since the oil and gas industry is the lifeblood of Canada's economy, thousands of hardworking men and women rely on this industry for their jobs, their homes, and even their livelihoods. So tonight I'm asking, who is really benefiting from these policies? Is this cap the right move for Canada? Who else in the world has a cap? And how can we protect the environment without destroying our economy? Well, joining me now to unpack this recent announcement is Dan Mcteague, President of Canadians for Affordable Energy, and David Yager, Energy Policy Advisor for the Government of Alberta. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me for this very contentious and important topic. And this conversation needs to be had, so I'm glad to have both of you on. So maybe we'll start with you, Dan. Can you walk us through this latest policy announcement?
Well, the federal government's position, not uncharacteristic of what they've done in the past, is to basically reduce emissions by as much as 45% between now and 2030, in the next 8 years, as you quite rightly described. To do that, of course, the government is imposing a time limit, putting in draft regulations as to how industry is going to have to meet that. And an industry, as you quite rightly pointed out, for which the technology isn't necessarily there. In fact, it's not there. And the government is basically saying it doesn't really matter, the effect of which will be probably a drop of production of about 17%. To put that in context, that would, at $70 a barrel, if you're going to, natural gas selling for $2, say a gig, to me, there is likely going to be a nasty decrease of about $20 billion a year in net revenues to the federal, provincial, municipal governments. Not to mention, of course, displacement of workers. Now, the government says it's only 3,000 or 4,000. It's probably a lot closer to 150,000. And by the way, Tanya, I'm in Eastern Canada. Eastern Canadians don't think much of this. They should, because our financial sector, our programs, our pensions, our social security very much depends on the health, the well-being, and the revenues generated by the sector. To cap it at a time in which it needs to grow is counterproductive, but not at all a surprise. Again, this is the same government that blocks pipelines. This is the same government that imposes not one, but two carbon taxes, doesn't like cost-benefit analysis, for which we found in 2021, much to the disappointment, I think, of those who were cheering on the clean fuel standard, that the cost-benefit analysis we did turned out to be correct. Was for every dollar of benefit, there's $6 in cost of the Canadian economy. This is very much a dagger pointed to the heart of the Canadian economy, and as a result, Canadians are going to suffer. And to allow it to happen, maybe it won't happen if the government is not there, but certainly goes to the core of where I think our trading partners are at. All 12 of them have come to us saying, please, can you give us a little bit more energy? And we're prepared to say there's no business case. This makes no sense on any front. And as a producing nation, it's an insult, of course, to every Canadian that's out there who recognizes that we're a resource-based economy, like it or not, trendy or not.
Yeah, lots to unpack there. And throughout the show, we're going to kind of tease out some of the points you mentioned there, Dan. I want to switch to you, David, for a moment. You are an energy advisor to the Government of Alberta. What has Premier Smith's response been to this latest announcement? A surprising announcement, that is.
Well, it's actually not a surprise. They've been at this for some time. The first concept of an emissions cap was actually introduced by Premier Notley in 2015, as she and Prime Minister Trudeau went hand in hand to the COP conference in Paris in 2015. So this is not new. It's just actually a repeat of a repeat, in the sense they rolled this out 2 years ago at that time. And well, the original plan was in 2021, when it was quite fashionable coming out of COVID, when we predicted the end of oil and there was a lot of piling on. I just want to set the stage. You remember 4 years ago today, Shell and BP announced they were exiting the oil business. And capital markets like Larry Fink at BlackRock said, we don't need this anymore. They were writing about the end of oil. I find it's very interesting that a lot of the producers said we can live without this stuff now have amnesia about what they said 4 years ago and the positions they took.
I'm going to pause you there. We're going to cut to commercial, but we're going to pick this right back up when we return from this break. Be right back.
Sure.